Hello, Cocky Crocheter here. I am doing a tutorial video for you over one of the scarves in the Norse-Gael scarf collection that I designed. This one is the Roots of Yggdrasil scarf. It's actually my very first published pattern that I ever put on Ravelry, so yay, that's exciting. But one of the things that is very fun about this is that it's got some great texture to it. It's got some very unique cabling patterns. So it's got this 3-stranded cable, this big 4-stranded cable in the middle, and then this nice little 2-stranded cable twist here on the side, and they're framed in this nice little border here. But then there's also these transitionary periods where you get just like this nice, fun textured Celtic weave. It's just like so fun to play with and everything. And it's very, very warm. It is so warm on my neck. Like anytime I wrap it around, I'm just like, oh my God, there's no air getting in here at all. So it's definitely a great one for when you have very, very cold winter days and you just need like a nice scarf to throw on. You don't have to really layer it with anything. It's just one scarf will do it for you. So without further ado, it's time to show you how to work on this beautiful Roots of Yggdrasil scarf. Let's start with the construction. The Roots of Yggdrasil scarf is constructed out of 3 main components. So you've got this big cable section here. So that's going to be where we get our 3 different types of cables, which I'll go through how to do each of those. You're going to have these transitionary periods where you're going to create this little thin kind of border that will separate out the cable section from the next section. And then the next section is going to be this Celtic weave section. So that's going to be where you have these strands that weave in and out of each other and using a lot of different cabling techniques like what we do down here. So a lot of that will be explained in the video. But before we do that, I need to talk to you about some supplies that you'll need to be able to make your own Roots of Yggdrasil scarf. To begin your Roots of Yggdrasil scarf, you're going to need a few supplies. First, you're going to need some yarn. In the pattern, it recommends a DK weight yarn. The yarn that I used here is a local hand dyer called A Chick That Knits. Tammy is the hand dyer you see here. Her DK weight yarn is a 100% superwash merino wool. Really, you can use any fiber content that you want as long as you meet a gauge that you like and your scarf turns out the way that you want. The ones that I'm using come in 231 yards per 100 grams. Right here I have the colorway Jiminy Cricket, and then I also have a color here called Calypso. I will be using this on camera to do the tutorial, so that's what I'll be using there. Then I will also be using a Furls Galaxy Swirls hook. This is their Andromeda. This hook is a 5mm. In the pattern, it calls for a 4.25mm or size G hook. I know some Gs can be 4.25 or 4mm. That gets you that really dense fabric when used with a DK weight yarn. For this tutorial, I'll be using my 5mm hook just to give you a little bit more of a loose fabric so you can see the stitches more clearly. You can feel free to really use any hook size you want to get whatever size you want for your scarf, but that's just my recommendation is anywhere from like a 4 to a 5mm. The other materials you'll need are going to be some needles and some scissors. So you'll need the scissors for cutting, and then you'll also need needles to be able to weave in any loose ends because you will need multiple skeins of yarn. So it took me all of 3 skeins plus some of a 4th one to be able to finish my scarf to the length that I wanted. You, of course, can adjust for the length as you want, get more or less yarn as you see fit. But in either case, you are going to need some yarn needles to be able to weave in ends for where you join and when you finish. To begin our scarf, it will say to chain 47. So we'll go ahead and chain 47. That will include 46 stitches plus a turning chain. All right, I've just finished my 47th chain. So now we will do what is called a beginning double crochet. So essentially the way to see this is what's called basically a stacked single crochet. So in the second chain from our hook, we're going to insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and complete the stitch. That creates a single crochet. But then we want to stack another single crochet on top of that. So what we'll do is we'll look for this vertical bar right here, insert our hook through that bar, yarn over, draw up a loop, and then yarn over and draw through 2. So what that does is it creates a double crochet without having to use any chains, and it fills in this side a little bit better, so then that way we don't get that big gap that oftentimes happens when we do the chain 3, or even the bump that we get when we do a chain 2 and then double crochet. Then what we're going to do is we are going to double crochet in every chain across, and we'll have a total of 46 double crochets. So I'll go ahead and insert my hook into the next chain, do a double crochet. So there's 2 and 3, 4, there we go. And then we'll just do that all the way to the end. And so I'll meet you at the end to show you what to do next. I'm coming to the end of my chain. So one thing I like to do is in this very last chain, because of this slip knot here, it kind of creates that little bit of a bump. And just for me personally, I don't really like the way that looks. So a trick I use is when I insert my hook into that last chain, I go ahead and take this tail and drape it over my hook and kind of tuck it behind here. And then I go ahead and complete my final stitch around it, and then just kind of tug that, and it pulls that knot more inward. So then that way it doesn't jut out as much. So it creates a slightly neater corner here rather than it being like this little point that comes out. That's just my personal preference. You obviously don't have to do that if you really don't want to. If you just want to weave that in then later, you're going to anyway, and you can deal with it then. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we'll be now working on the right side. So to do the right side, we're going to turn. We don't do any beginning chains because our beginning double crochet doesn't need it in order to get the height that we need. So what we'll do is in that first stitch, we'll go ahead and insert and work a single crochet. And then we'll stack a second single crochet by working into that vertical bar. And that completes our first stitch. Then after that, it says that we will double crochet into the next 2 stitches. So that's going to be a total of 3 stitches on the sides. Once it does that, it's going to say to front post double crochet around the next stitch, and then double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Now, in the pattern, I do mention that when you do a front post double crochet, you're always going to be skipping the stitch that was worked behind it. So here, we would normally work into this stitch, but after I work a front post double around here, this post stitch here, I actually don't need to work in that anymore because that counts as my stitch for here. So I'll go ahead and work my front post double crochet. And then into the next ones, I'm going to be working my next 2 double crochets regularly. Then what I need to do is I need to skip the next 2 stitches. So these 2 stitches here. So this is going to be the setup for our cable. So our first cable is going to be a 3-strand braid. So it's going to skip these first 2. And then it says to do 2 front post trebles. So we got 2 front post trebles that will go around these next 2 here. So we're going to go around these next 2. Turning over twice to get a treble crochet. Then what we'll do is we will work in front of these stitches that we just made. So we're going to be creating a cable cross. So right now we've got 2 stitches that are leaning this way. So now we're going to create 2 stitches leaning the other way going on top. So to do that, we need to go yarn over twice, go in front of these stitches, and go around the 2 stitches that we skipped earlier. So we'll go around this first one, complete our front post treble crochet. Then we'll go around this next one, yarn over twice, complete our treble crochet. Now, it won't look like much at the moment, but eventually as this pattern builds, you'll start to see these beautiful cable crossings happening in our braid. So those are 2 of the strands of our 3-strand braid. So to work the next strand, we're actually going to be doing 2 front post double crochets around the next 2 unworked stitches. So I'll yarn over, go around this next stitch, create my double crochet there, and then yarn over, go around the next one, and form my next front post double crochet there. And that begins the establishment of this 3-strand braided cable. Once we do that, we are then going to work double crochets around the next 2 double crochets. Now remember, all these front post stitches, we're skipping everything behind it because we didn't need to work into those because we already worked around the posts. So we'll be working into this next stitch. We'll do a double crochet and another double crochet. Once we do those double crochets, we are now going to front post double crochet around the next one to form basically like a little bordered frame for this cable. So each of the cables is going to be bordered by this front post double crochet frame here. So it'll keep going along it parallel, and the cable will be inside to create a nice little effect here. And then the next cable is going to take up the most space here in the middle. This is going to be our 4-strand braided cable. So to do that, what we'll need to do is we will work first the space that we need to get to the cable. So we will go ahead and work double crochet into the next 2 stitches to give it some space so that we can see the cable very clearly. Then once we do that, we are going to front post double crochet around the next 3 stitches. So we've got 3 stitches here that we will be working around just front post double crochets. So we'll go ahead and do that. Once I do that, I am then going to skip the next 3 stitches. So I've got 3 stitches here that I will skip. Once I do that, I will look at these next 3 stitches, and those are going to be where I work my next front post treble crochets. So skip these 3 and work in these next 3. So I will yarn over twice, skip 3, work around this next one, and then do it again around the next one, and the next one. Kind of flatten that out here. Now, here's the thing. With the 4-stranded cable, we are going to have to alternate between when we have crossings where the right side crosses in front of the left side and also where the left side crosses the front side. So I won't lie, this is going to be the most challenging part of the cable pattern as far as these braids are concerned, and that's going to be having to work behind these stitches. So what we look for is you can see this window right here. That big gap is going to be where we're going to be putting our hook through, going behind these stitches we just made, but still working into these 3 skipped ones. So to do that, we're going to yarn over twice, go behind the stitches we just made, and then what I like to do is just kind of pull these ones. So like I said, it's a little tricky. Sometimes I like to pull these ones kind of down and pull this back up here. So I can clearly see these 3 stitches. Once I have these 3 stitches, I can then work my front post treble crochets around them. Try not to get too turned here. Okay, so there was the first one. Now we're going to work into this next one. Yarn over twice, go around here. Yarn over twice, find our 3rd post stitch here. complete our front post treble. And then what we can do is we can now pull the stitches that I pulled down back up here. And it's a little hard to tell, but we can see here, we've got, zoom in there, we've got these treble crochets crossing this direction, going to the right. And then behind here, we've got the other treble crochets that are crossing behind it going to the left. So that's going to create the back cross. So it's going to look like this in the braided pattern. Then what we do is that completes the third strand. So we've got 1 3 crochet strand, another one here and another one here. So we've got 3 strands. So now we're going to look for the next unworked stitch. So that was the post stitch that we worked in before. We're going to find this next one. This is going to be the one we'll work the next front post double crochet in, and we'll do that for 3 stitches. Once we do that, we've now established our 4-strand braided cable. And so we're going to do like we did on the other side here. It's going to be mirrored, where we're going to now work 2 regular double crochets. And then we will frame it by doing a front post double crochet around the next one. And then that completes the big middle cable. The next cable is going to be a 2-stranded cabled braid. So you're getting to experiment with various types of cabled braids here. We've got a 3-strand, a 4-strand, and a 2-strand. Altogether, the strands should add up to 9, which is, part of why this is the name of this pattern, is because of it having to do with Yggdrasil and the 9 worlds in Norse myth, all that good stuff. But it's also just a fun way to experiment and try out different cables in the same scarf. And it creates like a nice, fun, cool texture. So we're going to go ahead and work our 2 regular double crochets to help with the framing again. And then this one is going to be the 2-stranded cable. So the 2-stranded cable is going to be worked very similarly to the 4-stranded cable, and it's going to take up the same amount of space as the 3-stranded cable. So the 3-stranded cable takes up 6 stitches. This will take up 6 stitches as well. Those 6 stitches are going to be right here. So what we need to do is we need to first skip these 3 stitches. So we are going to do a front post treble around the next stitch after skipping those 3. And then what's great about the 2-stranded cable is that we will always work in front of the stitches we just made. So we're going to get to do the easier version of a cable cross. So it's going to always look like this whenever we are done with the cable crossing part. So going back in front of these stitches, we will yarn over twice, find those 3 skipped stitches that we worked around, and then work our front post trebles around those 3. Kind of push them forward so we can see them clearly. We got that one right there. And then this last one right here. And then if we kind of flatten that out, we can see we've got the foundation of our cable cross here for our 2-stranded braided cable. So then we find the next unworked stitch. So we've got that one was a post stitch we worked around. So this is going to be our next one. And we're going to finish off by doing 2 double crochets, just like we did to frame all the other cables. And then we'll work a front post double crochet. And then we should have 3 stitches remaining. So we'll do a double crochet in each of those stitches to the end. Now let's take a look at our work here. So if we can kind of flatten it a bit. It's going to definitely curl and twist and do all kinds of things with you, but if you can kind of just gently push it into a flat piece, you can see clearly where our cables are going to be. So here we have the first cable with the 3-stranded braid. Then here in the middle, we've got our 4-stranded braid. And then here on the side, we have our 2-stranded braid, or just 2-stranded twisted cable. All right, so that would complete row 1. Now, for row 2, we're going to turn. And just like with all the other rows, we're going to start with a beginning double crochet. So we're going to start by making a single crochet into that first stitch without a chain. Then working into that vertical bar, create another single crochet to make a stacked single crochet to form our beginning double. And then what's great about working the wrong side of these cables is that it's just double crochets and back post double crochets. So that makes it very easy to do exactly what you need to do. So there's no crossing or anything like that. So we'll first start by doing a double crochet into the next 2. And then every time we come across a post stitch, so my next one here is going to be this double crochet that was a front post double crochet. So you'll see that they'll kind of lean towards the back here. Anytime we encounter one of those, we're going to want to do a back post double crochet. So I'll yarn over, go around it, coming from the back through the front, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And that'll complete my back post double crochet. Then the next ones are just regular double crochets. So I'll go ahead and work my double crochets there. And then we get to these cable crossings. Okay, so this one we've got to pay very close attention to where we're going to start our double crochet. So if you kind of look at the top, just kind of stretch it, you can see that the order that we follow these V's in is going to be the same order that we will work these back post double crochets. So we're going to want to work it around this stitch, then this one, then this one. Then we'll work it around this one, and this one. So I'm going to go ahead and find where this post stitch was, work my back post double crochet around that one. Then find the next V, and we're going to work the back post double crochet around that one. And then if we keep following the V pattern, so there was that V, we've got this next V right here. So that would be this stitch right here. We're going to work our next back post double crochet. And then now that we've done that, we can find our next V right here. That's going to be the next stitch we will need to work our back post double crochet around. And then we find the next one right here. So we'll work around this. It'll be this post stitch right here, which is where this V is located. So go ahead and work our back post double crochet there. And then we'll work our back post double crochet around the next one. And then we are back to regular double crochets. So these were not post stitches. So they are worked directly into the stitches below them. So we're going to go ahead and work regular double crochets into those as well. And then we'll be back at where we have that border front post double. So we're going to work a back post double around that one. And then we just keep basically following that all the way across. So anytime you see these types of stitches, those are going to be worked just regular double crochets. Anytime you see them leaning forward and you've got like this kind of ridge here, you're going to be working back post doubles. And to find those back post doubles more easily where you're going to put them, if you look at the top, you'll see these V's and just look to see what post are they attached to. So you'll find which post you'll work into and which order you need to go into across. Once you do that, you'll get all the way to the end here. And then I will meet you there and show you what to do for the next row. I'm sorry, I did a whoopsie. I accidentally lied to you a little bit earlier about how it's just going to basically be back post doubles all the way across. I completely forgot that for this 3-stranded cable braid, there's actually a little bit something different we have to do. So apologies, ignore that part. But you should still be able to get through the rest of that with just doing the back post doubles. Now, the three-stranded braid is a little different because in order to create the crossing effect, because it's kind of like this odd thing, what we're going to be doing is working a back post cross, which is going to be a slightly advanced method, but don't worry, I'll go slowly on here to show you what exactly I'm doing. In fact, I'll even tighten down here. We can get real close in. So we should see, if we turn it over to the front, we've got these two post stitches that were worked without crossing. Then we have these two, so 4 stitches that were crossed back here. So what we'll need to do is we need to get this to cross with this. So these 4 are going to form a cross themselves. To do that, we are going to skip these 2 stitches, and then we will work a back post treble crochet around these next 2. So we'll find the 2 that are more towards the front of the work here. We'll work a back post treble crochet. Then we're going to work another back post double crochet around the next one. So if I kind of turn it here, we already worked across this one. So we're going to work around this next one right here. So there we go. Now what we need to do is we need to work our front post treble crochets around these 2 stitches that we skipped. To do that, we will be working behind the stitches we just made. But unlike on the right side, this will actually be our easier version because trying to work in front of these means we're trying to squeeze into this weird gap here. There's a lot of twisting and turning that has to be done. But we don't want that because what we actually want is for this, because it was a front cross up here, we want this to be a back cross. So to make this a back cross, we need to work behind them and then go around these stitches from the back. Might be a little confusing here. Let me show that again. So find these 2 stitches. We're going to yarn over twice, going behind the stitches that we just made here. We're going to go around the post of this stitch like so. And if we pop back over to the front, you can see we've wrapped it underneath that post stitch. So then we'll just complete our treble crochet. Then kind of turn it back to see where we need to go next. So now what we'll need to do is we need to look for that last double crochet. So we already worked around this one. So now we're going to work around this next one. So once again, we're going to yarn over twice, going behind everything I just made. We're going to come through behind and around that stitch and kind of pull it towards me here to see it. And then I just complete my treble crochet. Try not to make these tight. If you make these too tight, it's definitely going to pucker and make it really difficult to work your way around the stitches. But if you make them loose enough, then you're able to be more flexible with it. So then what we do is we should be able to kind of flatten that back out. And then we'll find that we have these next 2 treble crochets that were part of the cross earlier. So these 2 are going to be our next ones. But because these aren't being crossed in this row, we don't need to work trebles. We just need to work back post doubles. So we're going to yarn over just once, and then we're going to kind of pull these out, and then working behind here, we're going to go back and then forward around that post, and then we will complete our double crochet. And then we do the same thing around the next one. Yarn over, go around this post, and complete our double crochet. Then what we'll do is we'll find these next stitches. These are just going to be our regular double crochets. So we'll go ahead and work those. Then we have this post stitch here that we'll work our back post double crochet around. And then we have our final 3 stitches. So we'll work our regular double crochets into those last 3. Once we do that, we can then turn, and now you can actually see the effect of having worked that three-stranded cable the way that we did. So what we did here is by crossing behind the work, we actually ended up getting these to be more to the front. So this is now creating that back cross look, but we actually did it like the other way around. So yeah. So in other words, we were able to achieve what we needed to by following exactly what the pattern instruction said, which was to work skipping 2 front or back post trebles, working behind them, work back post trebles around the 2 we skipped, then work back post doubles around the next 2. So that's going to be the most complicated part you'll experience on the wrong side. All these other cables, thankfully, are just working back post double crochets like normal. So now for the next row, we'll begin, of course, with our beginning double crochet, work our 2 single crochets. I'll actually zoom back out here. Then we'll be on our border one, so we'll do our front post double here. And then we'll work our 2 double crochets to get to our cable. Now, the thing about the 3-stranded cable is that the right side and wrong side are just the same 2 repeats because that forms that 3-stranded braided look. So we are now going to do the same thing we did on the previous row where we did the right side. We're going to do 2 front post treble crochets by skipping these stitches, working around the next 2, forming our front post trebles. Then working in front of the stitches we just made and finding these 2 that we skipped here, we are going to now work the next 2 front post treble crochets. So we'll go around these 2 that we skipped earlier. And then what we need to do is work our front post double crochets into the next 2. Now the next 2 stitches are a little bit hidden. They're hidden underneath these 2 stitches overlapping them. So what we can do is kind of pull those stitches back, and we can tug these and see there are our 2 stitches that we need to now work around. So we will work our front post double crochets around these next 2 stitches. Then where we're at is we are at our 2 regular double crochets. So I will go ahead and work those. And then our front post double to create that frame look. And if we look here, you can now see that the braid is starting to come together. So we've got the crisscrossing happening back and forth, and that's just going to continue happening as you work this braid up. Now, that braid, you do the same repeat every 2 rows. You do the front post treble crossing on the right for the right side, and then you do the front post treble crossing, or sorry, back post treble crossing on the back in the same spot. But the 4-stranded braid is going to be worked a little bit differently. So this is going to be alternating between a center cross and then 2 crosses on the side. Earlier we made our center cross. So now we're going to do our 2 crosses on the side. To do that, we are going to first do our 2 double crochets to get to the braid. And then what we'll do is we are going to skip these 3, and we will front post treble around the next 3 stitches. So the next 3 stitches are going to be the ones that are in front. So there are going to be these back post doubles we worked earlier. So we'll go ahead and work our front post trebles around those next 3. And then what we'll need to do is, because the center cross is a back cross, these side crosses need to be front crosses. So the center cross always looks like this, and then the side crosses always cross the opposite way. So that means we get to do the working in front of these stitches, which is really nice because to me that is the easier one. So we'll go ahead and yarn over twice, find the 3 stitches that we skipped here, working in front of the stitches we just made, go ahead and work our front post treble crochets. Okay. Then we will repeat that with the next 6 stitches. So we're going to find those 6 stitches. So remember that when these are overlapping, it's because it's covering these 3 stitches here. So we'll kind of tuck those out or pull those out. You can see our next 6 stitches will be these stitches right here. So we'll go ahead and skip these 3, work front post trebles around these next 3, and working in front of them, work our last 3 front post trebles around these stitches. So I'll go ahead and show that here. So skipping those 3, we'll work into the next 3 here. Then I'll go ahead and yarn over twice and then kind of tuck this out of the way and look for those 3 stitches. They're going to be these 3 right here. So I'll go ahead and work my next front post treble around these. Every once in a while, I just basically kind of flatten them out, feel around for them, stretch and push and see where's my next unworked stitch so I can follow where they go. So here's this one and this one. So the next one has to be next to it. So it's going to be this one right here. And then that completes the 4 stranded cables next repeat. So then we should now have our 2 regular double crochets that we will work. And we'll be at our front post double for the framing. And then we'll have 2 more regular double crochets. And then we'll be at our final cable, our 2-strand one. So what's great about the 2-strand is just like with the 3-strand one, the right side is always done exactly the same way. It's always going to be skip 3, work 3 front post trebles, and then work 3 front post trebles in front of the ones we just made using these skipped ones. So basically the wrong side is always just going to be kind of straightening it up to make it easier to find these. And then the right side is always going to be doing our cable cross, or actually, sorry, it goes like this. So it'll always be a cable cross like this. Right, and then once we find those stitches, we'll go and see that we've got these 3 right here. So we'll skip those, we'll work around these 3. All right, then we will yarn over twice, go and find the 3 that we skipped, kind of push them out here. So they would be these 3 right here. So I'll go ahead and work my front post trebles around those 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then that creates our little cable twist. Then we find the next 2 stitches, which will be these 2 regular double crochets. And then now we're basically just to the end. So we'll do our double crochets, front post double, and then finish off with 3 double crochets. And that is the end of our next right side row. So you can kind of see that we're starting to get some puckering, some curling. That's just what happens when you're working cables. It'll all launder out, wash out, block out, any way that you want to see it. So eventually you'll be able to get it nice and neat. If we kind of stretch these out a bit, we can see our cables are starting to form, and these will now be exactly where we always build our cables up. So the next row is just going to be a repeat of the wrong side row we did before. You'll work back post double crochets across all of these stitches that are the post stitches. And then in the braid over here, the 3-strand braid, you'll work the 3-strand braid wrong side repeat, and then you'll finish out. Then you go back and you repeat the first right side row that we established. You'll do all of that again. So it's a 4-row repeat. You do one pattern for the right side, work wrong side back. The second part of the pattern for the right side, wrong side back, and then you repeat that again and again and again. And you'll follow your pattern for how many rows you need to do that before you get to the next section of the scarf. So I'll go ahead and work up this wrong side row, and then I will show you what to do when you get to that point. Once you've completed all the repeats for the cables, you're going to then be transitioning to the next section for the Celtic weave. To do that, there's going to be several half double crochet style stitches to create this kind of border in between them. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of those different ones. So the first one is actually not a half double crochet, it's just an extended single crochet. So what you do for that one is you'll chain one like I just did. You'll find your first stitch, insert it into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. And then what you'll do is you'll yarn over and pull through just that first loop to extend it. Then you'll yarn over and pull through both. So what that does is it gets you to the height of a half double crochet, but it gives you more of like that kind of smooth single chain edge. Then what you'll do is you'll work a half double crochet into every one of these regular double crochet stitches. So of course, yarn over, insert, pull up a loop, just normal half double crochet. But then when you get to any of these post stitches, you'll work what's called an extended half double crochet. So to do an extended front post half double crochet. So it's a lot that it sounds like, but it's actually a pretty easy stitch to do. What you're going to do is you're going to yarn over, you're going to go around the post of the stitch below, just like you would for a front post stitch of any kind. Yarn over, pull up a loop. And then what you'll do is you'll yarn over and pull through just that first loop, and then you'll yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. What that does is it gives you the height of a half double crochet, but then still extends a little bit down to grab that post stitch. This just keeps it from puckering down where the post stitches are. So you're going to do that every time you see one of these cable post stitches. So I'll go through to the next one. So this next one will just be a regular half double crochet, since that was just a regular double crochet there. Then around these post stitches, even if they're crossed, you'll just work straight across them. You're going to go across and just do a yarn over, go around the post, yarn over, pull through one, yarn over, pull through that first one to extend it, and then you'll have those 3 on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3, and that completes the half double crochet. And I just go around every single one of these post stitches, doing my extended and then completing my half double crochet. So then that way I've got the height of the half double crochet, but it still maintains that post stitch look right there. Remember that some of these, they're kind of tucked in the back, so we want to make sure we pull those. So your stitch count should remain 46 stitches all the way across. And then now I've got these 2 regular ones, so I'll just do 2 regular half double crochets. And I've got a post stitch, so I'll do an extended front post half double. And then half double crochets. And then I'm to my cable, so I'll do extended front post half double crochets. And pretty much you'll just repeat that using, oh, I already did all three. Okay. I was like, what am I doing wrong here? Okay. So I've already worked 3 of them and then I'm on these 3. Okay. We're good. We're good. So what you'll do is you'll just basically do that all the way across to the end. And then I will show you what to do to work the next row of our transition to the next section. Now that I've reached the end of this row, we're going to now do the next row of the transition. So what we'll do is we're going to turn and we're going to work a beginning double crochet. So that's where we're going to work our single crochet and stack another one on top of it. So we'll go ahead and just do that in the first one. And then we will work 2 more double crochets. So that's just going to be our first 3 stitches are double crochets regularly. Then what we'll do is we'll work a back post double crochet around the front post extended half double that we did on the row before. So we'll just do that like normal, go around the post of it, going around the back, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. But then the rest of this is going to create a border effect on the front. So the reason we did half double crochets is because half double crochets have that extra yarn over that creates what is called the third loop. And that third loop is going to be very convenient to work into to create that border effect. So if we kind of turn our stitch here, this half double crochet has the V that's on top. Those are the 2 loops that are normally on top of every crochet stitch. But then if you turn it towards you this way, you can see that there's this extra loop right here. That is the third loop. And so we're going to be working our double crochets into all of these third loops of these half double crochets until we get to the border on the other side. So this last one, we'll do our normal back post double crochet in, and then we'll just do regular double crochets into these, but everything in between is going to be worked into that third loop. So let me show you how that's done here. Okay, so we'll yarn over to start our double, and then we don't work into this one because that's part of the one we did our back post double around. So in this one, we'll go under that third loop right there, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And so our double crochet will be worked into that third loop. It's going to look a little bit loose right now on this side, but on the front, it's going to push those 2 V's so that that is going to form kind of like a little border on the front. So then we'll go to the next one, find our next third loop, work our double crochet into that. Then go into the next one, work into the third loop, work our double crochet into that, and then just keep repeating that all the way until the very last half double crochet post that we'll work our back post double crochet around. And it sometimes helps me, instead of working with it, like up like this where I can work into it like I normally would, sometimes I'll just turn the scarf so then that way it's a little bit flatter. So that way I can kind of push these third loops up and it makes it a little easier for me to see and to work into them. And that's pretty much it for this row. It's just working those double crochets in the third loop. So I will go ahead and get to the end to show you what to do there. And then after that, you will be ready to begin the next main section of your scarf. All right, I'm coming to the part where I'm about to need to do the back post double crochet instead. So I just kind of pay attention like, okay, so I've got one more here to work in the third loop. And then I've got this last half double crochet that was worked in the post. So I'll do my back post double crochet around that one. And then in these last three, I'm just going to work 3 normal double crochets because I don't want the border to appear on the outside. I just want it to appear inside with all of the cabling and everything. So I'm going to do 3 regular double crochets. And then if I turn, we can now see that across the top of our cable section, we've got this nice little defined line here of all of those half double crochet V-tops that were scooched forward from us working in the 3rd loop. So that's what creates this nice little border around the cable sections. So now that we've done that, we are now ready to begin the next section, which is going to be our Celtic Weave section of this scarf. Now we're ready to begin our Celtic Weave section. So to do that, we'll start the same way we do the other cable sections. We're going to start with a beginning double crochet into that first stitch. Then we will work a double crochet into the next 2. A front post double crochet around the border right here. And then we will do 2 more double crochets. And now we are ready to start working the Celtic Weave. So the Celtic Weave is going to basically just be a bunch of post stitches that will cross each other in these kind of like alternating ways, like this. So some of them will be crossed like this, some will cross like this, but they'll always alternate as we go up each row. So the first one we're going to do is actually going to be 2 front post double crochets into these very first ones. So we'll just work 2 front post double crochets. And then we are going to skip the next 2 double crochets and work front post trebles around the next 2. So go ahead and yarn over twice, skip 2, go to this next one, and work 2 front post treble crochets here. Then, working in front of the stitches we just made, we are going to now work front post treble crochets around the 2 that we skipped. So we will yarn over, go around the first one we skipped, do it again around the second one that we skipped. And that creates a little cable cross like we would have on the 2-stranded braid earlier. But then we're going to basically repeat that across until we have 2 stitches left before this border, because then that's going to be where we will just work regular double crochets to make sure we offset and see this Celtic weave pop out nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and skip these next 2, yarn over twice, and then in the next 2, go ahead and work my front post treble crochets. Then, working in front of these, we will yarn over twice, go around the 2 stitches that we skipped. Snagged there. Okay, smooth that out. There we go. All right. There we go. Okay. And then we'll do that again. So on these next 4, I will skip these first 2, work my trebles around the next 2. And then work trebles around the skipped ones. And we've got quite a few left. So I'm going to go ahead and work the rest of those off camera just because it's the same repeat over, and I'll show you what to do once we get here to the end. I've now reached the last 6 stitches right before this border front post double crochet. So these 2 are going to be where I will work my regular double crochets for the continued background stitches right here. And then these next 4 are going to be my final cable crossing for my Celtic weave. So I'll go ahead and do my yarn over twice, go around the 2 here, and then finish going into the ones that we skip. And there we go. And then we have these 2 left. So I'll work regular double crochets into those 2. Do a front post double around this front post double to create the border. And then finish off with my 3 double crochets at the end. And that is essentially going to be the right side repeat for every one of your Celtic weave rows. So right now we just had those double crochets that we just worked into, but in future ones, you're going to be working around the post stitches we will be creating on this next row. But that's essentially everything you'll need to know for the right side of the Celtic weave. Now to do the wrong side, we're going to turn, and then we're going to work a beginning double crochet, work a double crochet into the next 2, back post double crochet around the next post stitch to form the border. Oop, messed up there. There we go. And then we will work 2 regular double crochets. Now, the way this side works is it's basically going to be the same as what we did on the right side, but it's going to be with back post stitches. So we will start by finding these 2 stitches here. And those are going to be where we work 2 back post double crochets. So on the right side, we did 2 front post double crochets to start, but here we're going to do 2 back post double crochets. So we'll go ahead and work those. And then we're going to start doing the Celtic weave cable crossings using the next 4 stitches. So where to find those next 4 stitches is if you can kind of push these here. These were our first 2. The next 2, if we look on top, would be the ones that are attached to these V's. So that's going to be these 2 post stitches right here. Then if we keep going, looking at those V's here, the next ones will be whatever is attached to these 2, which is going to actually be these stitches tucked right in here. So it should be these 4 stitches that we will be working around. So get that cat hair out of there. Sorry about that. So we've got these 2 that'll be easier to see because they'll be right in front of us. But then these next 2 are going to be actually tucked behind these 2. So we'll want to pull them out so we can see them more easily. So what we'll need to do is we will need to do a front post treble crochet by skipping these 2 and working around this, sorry, not front post, we need to do a back post treble crochet around these 2 stitches. So I'll go around the back, around that post, come out through the back, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then complete my treble crochet. And then I'll do that into the next one. So yarn over twice, find that next post stitch that's tucked back there, go around it from the back, pull through, complete my treble crochet. And now what we need to do is we need to work back post treble crochets around these 2 skipped ones that we went over earlier. So to do that, we'll be working actually behind these. So this will be very similar to when we worked the 3-strand braid in the regular cable section. So that part actually should just be the same as what you did there. So we'll yarn over twice, go behind these stitches, come through the back around this first post stitch here, go around it. And then once I do that, I can then pull up my loop and then complete my treble crochet. So let's do that again on the next one. So we'll yarn over twice. This next post stitch will be what I work around. So going behind everything that I just worked, we're going to come from the back around that post and then back through the back again. So we will then pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 at a time until we get to the top. Okay, so then what that's done is it's created the cable cross. We can't really see it very well back here because it's not meant to really look like anything back here. But if we flip it around, we can now see that we've created a cable crossing with this strand here. It was going over this one earlier, and now it's coming under this one to create that little woven effect. So that's why it's called a Celtic weave, because it looks like you're weaving these strands in and out, almost like a little basket or something. So we're going to repeat that over and over again. So finding our next 4, so that's going to be these 2 that are in front, and then the 2 that are back here kind of tucked in the back. These will be the next 4 we will work around because we want those to cross each other. So we will work a back post double crochet going around this post stitch that's tucked back here. And then we'll do it again to the next one that's tucked back there. And then we need to work back post trebles around the 2 that we skipped. So it's going to be these 2 that we see very clearly in the front right here. So to do that, we will yarn over twice, go behind everything that we just worked, come through the front, going around that post right there, and then complete our back post treble crochet around that. And then we'll find the next one, this one right here, coming around behind everything, coming through the back, go around that post, and then complete our treble crochet. And we just do that with every set of 4 stitches. So it's always going to be the 2 slanting here in the front and then 2 tucked in the back. So we'll start by working around the 2 tucked in the back, doing our back post trebles. And then working around the 2 that are in the front, going behind everything, coming in front, making sure you're not accidentally grabbing any other extra things. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just kind of grab these 2 strands, kind of poke my finger through here to make sure it's almost like a little guide for my hook. So my hook just follows along my finger and it can come through where it needs to. So it's only wrapping around this post stitch right here. That's why this is definitely an intermediate to advanced pattern, because it's definitely a lot more complicated than what a beginner or even maybe like just someone who's been doing it a bit but still really only using basic stitches. This is going to definitely challenge you. Not to say that it's impossible to do, but it's definitely a lot of getting used to putting your hook into some random weird places in your work that maybe you're not used to. But I personally think it's a lot of fun, because once you do this, you can pretty much tackle almost any cable design in crochet, because they really don't get much more complicated than this. They're pretty much just working a lot of front posts and back posts, figuring out whether you need to go behind or in front of stitches, making sure you're crossing where you need to cross and that the crossings are the front cross or the back cross correctly. So it is a lot, but it is definitely doable, especially if you're just following the instructions, because your designer is going to have figured all of that out for you. So you don't have to know, well, do I need to go behind here, in front of here? No, they'll they'll state specifically where you need to put your hook. So there's not really a lot of guesswork involved. All right, there we go. I'm just going to keep going. And you'll basically just work that all the way across until you get to your border area. What you'll find when you get to the end is that your last 4 are actually going to be these 2 front post doubles that we'd worked to start the previous row. And then this one that's kind of crossing in the front here. So what we'll do is we will work our back post doubles around these 2 because they're not tucked behind anything, but that's because they were the ones that just started everything off. And then still working behind those stitches, come around and come in between here. Let me get my guide there. There we go. And then once we do that, we are now back to our border section. So we can now just do 2 regular double crochets. Our back post double crochet around this post stitch. And then 3 regular double crochets at the end. And then when we turn our work, we can see here that our strands are starting to form that nice little woven pattern here. So we've got the crossings happening here, but then they alternate up here. And so the next one is going to come back over here and then over here, and they're just going to kind of zigzag and weave back and forth throughout. So that's what's really cool about this pattern, is it does look like you took the strands and wove them together, even though it's all crocheted post stitches. So then what we do is we then just repeat the right side row that we did earlier. So we'll start with the border and then we work front post doubles, but this time the front post doubles will be worked around these 2 stitches that crossed here. So that's going to be our starting point. So you're always starting with 2 post stitches that are just double crochets. Then you're doing your crossings with all of the other sets of 4 because those are always the 2 that are about to meet. So you've got to do a crossing to finish that out. And then you just basically repeat that over and over. So I'm going to start that off just to kind of remind you. So we'll do our beginning double crochet here. And our double crochets. Front post double around this one to create the border. And then 2 double crochets for our background. Okay. So then, once again, you can use the trick of, if you're not sure which ones to go around, just look along the top and just follow the path of these V's. So our first 2 V's are right here. So they're attached to these 2 stitches that are right here. So we'll do our front post double crochets around those 2. And then we will complete by doing all of the cable crossings. So we'll then look for the next one. So it'll be these 4 here. So that will be these two that are tucked in the back here, and then these two that are on top right here. So we'll work by skipping the two that were back here, working around these two that are on top, front post trebles. And then working in front of these, we will then do front post trebles around these two that are tucked back here. So we'll go ahead and pull that back, grab that first one back here. And then same thing into the next one. And that continues the nice cable woven effect here. And so then I'll just do that across the next ones. So I'll find these next two that are sticking out in front. And then working in front of those, work into these ones that are kind of tucked back here. So we'll kind of pull those forward there and work our front post trebles around those two. And you just repeat that just like before, all the way here till the end, where you'll then work your border stitches of 2 doubles, front post double, and then 3 doubles. You turn, repeat, and just do the same thing on the wrong side that you did on the previous row. So it's just a 2-row repeat. It's just front post doubles and then crossing with front post trebles. And then when you get to the back post doubles, and then crossing with back post trebles. So you just keep repeating that all the way across, and that you'll do for however many rows it says in your pattern, or however many rows you want to make this section as long as you want. And then after that, it goes back to another half double crochet transition row, and then it just repeats this main cable pattern again. So it's just alternating between those sections. It'll be a section of cables, section of Celtic weave, section of cables, Celtic weave, cables, all the way until you end with just a section of cables, and then that completes your entire scarf. And so you now have all the tools and information that you need to be able to finish out your beautiful Roots of Yggdrasil scarf. Please feel free to post any pictures on social media. Feel free to tag me at Cocky Crocheter. And also, if you want to, you can use any sort of hashtags on this scarf if you would like. And also feel free to follow, like, subscribe on YouTube and on Instagram. Thank you and have a great day.